Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commanders Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So, Aetherdrift spoiler season is in the books, and you know what that means. It is time for the power tier rankings of the commanders from both the main set as well as the precons. Which commanders in the vacuum of Aetherdrift are the most power, the S tier commanders, and which are all the way down at the D tier at the bottom, and which are in between? Well, let's jump into it with my picks, and we're going to start things off as Moxfield has them ordered by mana value, so we're going to go with that. Basri, tomorrow's champion, and just remember, tomorrow is always a day away. 2-1 Human Knight for a single white mana, pay a white, tap, exert it, and then all of a sudden you make a 1-1 white cat creature with lifelink, and it's got cycling for 2 and a white. When you cycle it, cats you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. This might be like the #1 pick for a commander that is just like much better in the 99. Like, this is a very solid card in the 99 of a cat deck. As a cat commander, not so much. If you weren't aware, you cannot cycle from your command zone, so yeah, that part is basically useless unless you build around, literally building a cat deck around this and then bouncing it back to your hand, which you very well might do. You actually might do that. The ability itself is pretty underwhelming. I don't know if I'm going to put this in like the bottom tier essentially, but it's definitely down there. Like, it's, yeah, you can make a 1-1 cat. Cool, with lifelink. Nice. All right, so you can go wide. You can do like some cat tribal things with that, I guess. All right, you can get it down early as well. You could go like Voltron if you really want to. Like, okay, turn 1, get down 2-1, start hitting harder and harder and harder. It's just kind of an underwhelming commander. There are obviously ways that you can untap it, so you don't have to worry about the exert. But again, like, if you are just exerting it, it's like, okay, I use my ability. I'll see you in 2 turns. Yeah. Okay, so overall, I don't know if it's the bottom because there's just a specific group of cards that are definitely going to be on the bottom, but we're going to go with a C tier commander for now, and I reserve the right to move them, okay? It might move down. Next up, Lorna, Coral Tyrant, a 0/8 Octopus. That costs 2 mana and does absolutely nothing else. Yeah, there is a special tier reserved for you and all the others that are vanilla. My apologies. You're really cool. I love the vanilla commanders. I absolutely love them. This is not a knock against them. This is not a ranking of, like, my favorite commanders. No, there's already an episode on that. Make sure you check that one out. This is a ranking of, hey, how powerful are you? And if you are vanilla, literally, unless you are like, hey, 2 mana and it's a 20/20. No, then no, you're not very powerful at all. 0/8, yeah, I'm sorry, but yeah, you can block, but other than that, you're not really doing much of anything. Next up, Hashaton Scarab's Fist, a 1/3 zombie wizard for 2 mana in Orza, but it is an Esper commander. Whenever you discard a creature card, you may pay 2 and a blue. If you do create a tap token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 zombie. This one I actually think is quite powerful. This one, again, allows you to use and abuse, say, a free discard outlet. Scourge Familiar is my favorite pick for that because that actually gives you mana back as well. But a free discard outlet to discard massive creature cards that have massive effects, massive ETBs, whatever they're going to be, and just do so whenever you want. Again, you're basically getting around timing restrictions with that, and you're saving so much mana too. I mean, just picture like discarding a giant Eldrazi essentially and being like, okay, I'm discarding my giant Eldrazi. It's got like Annihilator 3 or whatnot, and I don't really care that it's a 4/4. I'm going to be attacking with it, and all of a sudden, yeah, you're getting punished by that. So it is definitely the kind of commander where you can do some pretty crazy things. Obviously, Populate can be a great thing as well with it, too. I do think there's plenty of ways to use and abuse things, and again, yeah, just being able to get a giant discount on massive creatures is absolutely huge, and taking advantage of them being tokens as well. I think overall, I'm probably going to put this one at an A tier. I think there's some pretty crazy things that you can do with it. Next up, Hazoret God Seeker, a 5/3 god with indestructible and haste for 2 mana in red. Start your engines, pay 1, tap, target creature power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn, and Hazoret can't attack or block unless you have max speed. This one is interesting for sure. It is just a commander that's like, oh, it's a 5/3 that's indestructible and hasty for 2 mana, but the haste really doesn't matter at all, except for just being able to activate that ability. Because, yeah, you need to get to max speed, and you're not going to be at max speed when you get this out at all. So you can't really be all that aggressive with it. If you get lucky and say on turn 1, you maybe have one of those other, start your engines cards, cool, you can get things going right then and there. And then maybe, keep things going. But, like, by the time this comes down, you're not going to be swinging with it right away if you're putting it down turn 2. So it is a commander that's like, okay, yeah, I can, like, be really aggressive. but not for a while. And yeah, I can also give something unblockability. Cool, that's great. And there are certain creatures that you definitely want to make unblockable that have like really cool triggers when they hit, but you're only making one creature unblockable, and it's got to have power 2 or less. So like overall, this is kind of like in the same category as Basri, that it's kind of the champion of tomorrow, and tomorrow again is always a day away. Next up, Koladin Triumph Caster, a 2/3 human pilot for 2 mana in Boros. Mounts and vehicles control have haste. Whenever a mount you control enters, it becomes saddled until end of turn. Whenever a vehicle control enters, it becomes an artifact creature until end of turn. This one's actually not bad. I mean, again, like you are obviously pigeonholing yourself to like, okay, mount, vehicle, tribal, or some kind of combination of the two, or just like one way or the other. And yeah, you can do some cool things with that. You're just kind of limited to that pool of cards, though, really, when it comes to making this really effective. That being said, yeah, I mean, the free haste is nice. Just be like, okay, I can swing right away. Again, like free saddling, free crewing, I guess is what they're going to call it. They don't really use that term, but like it's like, yeah, you crew the vehicle, but it's like the other one has saddled, and this one's like becomes an artifact creature. Like, okay, I guess they kind of have to list that. Anyways, yeah, being able to swing right away, you can be very aggressive, and keep in mind that with like mass blink effects, you can bounce them, blink them, they come back into play later then, and then you can just like reset them to have them get mounted and saddled and crewed or whatever all the things are essentially, so you can swing with them again. It's an aggressive commander. Again, there are certain vehicles out there that like have an absurdly high crew cost, but like don't cost all that much. Like I'm thinking of one like, is it Consulate Flagship? Not Flagship. There's a Consulate Dreadnought or something like that. It costs like 1. But yeah, you can just like swing right away with things. So that can be quite nice. Overall, again, like there are limitations on it. I'd say that this one's probably like middle of the road. Okay, maybe this is all getting like pretty unbalanced though because of like this bottom tier. Maybe I got to move these things down. We'll see. But yeah, yeah, I'm going to go with a B tier for now. Probably pretty middle of the road. Lagorin, Soul of Alacria, a 1/1 beast mount with flying for 2 mana Insula Lesnia. Whenever it attacks while saddle, put 2 counters on each of up to 2 target mounts or vehicles, and it's got saddle 1. Oh, yeah, I mean, like, okay, I can slightly pump mounts and vehicles. Cool. By giving them counters. At least it is counters, so, like, you can use proliferation kind of strategies with it as well. It's just pretty underwhelming, obviously, as a commander. Not that all uncommons need to be underwhelming. They don't have to be wizards, but this one definitely is an underwhelming commander. And, yeah, you don't really do much with it, I don't think. So I'm going to think overall, this is probably, again, joining that C tier of, like, not the vanilla creatures, but like just above that, and maybe in some circumstances, like not even above the vanilla creatures, kind of, but we're just going to throw it there for now. Moving on, Mendicant Core Guidelight, a star 3 robot for 2 mana in Azorius. Powers equal to the number of artifacts you control. Start your engines, max speed. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you may pay 1. If you do, copy it. Yeah, so the thing with max speed is that at least when you have certain commanders that have max speed, like this one, I guess Hazoret as well, right? It's 2 mana, all right? You can get things going. You can get that going so you get to that max speed decently quickly, but Hazoret's like, okay, like my payoff is like I can attack and block. Cool. This payoff is much better than that, obviously, being, oh, okay, I can double up my artifact spells by just paying 1, which is massive and potentially even broken. So, yeah, have fun with that. On top of that, the power that this can have is pretty insane because, again, it is basically the artifacts you control. Does not specify, like, non-token. So, yeah, go wild with clues, treasures, etc., etc. Go super wide with artifacts, and all of a sudden this can hit for a ton. You've got ways to get it through, like, I don't know, just even, like, Levitation, a great enchantment that gives flying to all your creatures. Cool, you swing through, you hit an opponent for probably a third of their life total when it comes to commander damage. Or, you know, you have double strike as well. You're obviously in white, too, so you have a lot of double strike effects. You could probably even get this to a 2-shot or even a 1-shot KO at a certain point. That being said, yeah, the real payoff for this one is doubling up artifacts. It is one that is dependent upon the, you know, start your engines to actually get there in the end. But obviously, you can start those engines quite quickly with it being in the command zone as well. And the payoff is, again, much better than Hazoret's. No offense, Hazoret. But Mendicant Core Guidelight, you are a, in my opinion, B tier commander. Next up, Redshift Rocketeer Chief, a 2/3 Goblin Pilot for 2 mana in Gruul. Vigilance, tap at X mana of any one color, X is its power, special unactivated abilities. Exhaust for 10 in Gruul colors. Put any number of permanent cards from your hand onto the battlefield. That is a massive payoff. That is a really big payoff. Is that a payoff that is enough to get to the A tier? To me, it's like a B+, like A-. It's like, oh, it's good. It is good, right? Okay. The amount of mana this can generate can be absolutely absurd quite easily. Again, it's based on power. So obviously, if you utilize like Black Blade or Forge type effects, if you utilize, I don't know, like Raised by Giants, you know, that kind of stuff as well, you can get its power up quite quickly, quite easily. And of course, you have like doubling effects as well, so have fun with that. Unnatural growth, that kind of thing as well. So you can tap for an absurd amount of mana. It can only be spent for abilities. There are other great abilities that you can utilize, even some broken ones too, like Sword of the Parents. Cool, infinite mana just for abilities. That being said, of course, the big payoff is that exhaust, utilize it, dump your hand into play, and whenever you're cheating, just again, massive things into play that you shouldn't be able to cheat into play, great. It is a one and done ability. That being said, yeah, you could probably, get this taken care of. You could probably, bounce it back to your head like a Temur Sabertooth of some sort. So yeah, a sacrifice outlet might be needed, or again, like a Temur Sabertooth bounce effect, so you can use it again when you need to. Or you might just win the game by just dumping a bunch of Eldrazi into play. So yeah, do keep that in mind. I think overall, yeah, this is one where it's like, it is like a cut above. It is a cut above like these B tier commanders. This is where I probably should just move these C tiers down a little bit, because I do think that there is kind of a gap. So sorry, you three, you're joining the vanilla creatures. I am so sorry. This is awkward for everyone involved. I am so sorry, but you're joining the vanilla creatures down there. I'm very sorry. I mean, it's just like there's kind of like a D- maybe for the vanilla creatures and like a D+ for these, but like I do think that Redshift is not quite up to Hashaton, but it is above this kind of level. So I do think I'm going to need that room. So we're making an early shift right now, an early Redshift right now. That was a Rocketeer Chief joke. Okay, anyways, next up, we've got Seed of Arma, Masked Racer, a 2/3 human rogue for 2 mana in Simic. Exhaust for X, green, and a blue. Put X counters on Seed of Arma. Then you may have the base power and toughness of each other creature you control become equal to Seed of Arma's power until end of turn. This one's a solid commander. It is one that, like, basically you don't even have to put down until you're, like, ready to finish the game off, if you really want to do that. Like, you can just actually get your commander down as soon as, like, you have your go-wide strategy, get a big army in play, and then just, okay, I've got a ton of mana. Or even if you have, like, again, like a Raised by Giants in play, like a Black-Bearded Force, something to pump this a ton, get it equipped, get it out there, get a ton of power on it, and then just go, oh, okay, activate. Yay! Or again, if you've got an absurd amount of mana, just dump all that into this in the X, and then your team becomes absolutely massive. You swing through, you take them out. Obviously, this can be part of the strategy to actually swing at this too, but yeah, I mean, you don't even have to do that necessarily. Obviously, you're in two very powerful colors in Commander as well, and two colors that, well, I mean, with the green, obviously, you can have your ramp taken care of. You've got an absurd amount of ramp with that color. And with blue, you got your draw taken care of too. A lot of evasive low-to-the-ground creatures in blue as well. And some creatures that actually can benefit you heavily when they get, through, like a Cold-Eyed Selkie or, what's the Cephalid Constable. Gross, disgusting, amazing. So yeah, with all the pump effects you have in this colors as well, yeah, I think overall, Seed of Arma is probably like a middle-of-the-road commander, probably a B-tier commander. Again, no offense to like these start your engine type commanders, but again, those are just a bit more limited. And again, like the mounts and vehicles, and just a bit more limited, a bit more specific. So there you go. All right, this is going to be a pattern. Tyrox, sorry Tyrant, a 4/1 Dinosaur Warrior for 2 mana in red. No text on it except for flavor text. It's vanilla. So because of that, sorry, you are an S tier. Just kidding. Sorry, you're a D tier commander as well. And yes, I know that kind of like between the different vanilla cards, they're probably like different power levels. Like this one, again, you could actually take someone out quite quickly with it. Probably one player out very quickly with it if you're like, okay, I get this out. Maybe I had like a Simian Spirit Guide to get it out in turn 1, turn 2. I'm swinging, I'm pumping, whatever. I've got something on it. And then turn 3, all of a sudden, like I have like a double strike effect. I take someone out. So like you could do that. Obviously, that being said, yeah, the vanilla, it's D tier. It just is D tier, okay? Next up. Unless it was literally like, again, like Yargle and Multani, like an 18-16 or 18-6 for 6. Okay. Vnwxt Verbose Host, a 0/4 homunculus for 2 mana in blue. Start your engines. You have no maximum hand size. If you draw a card, draw 2 cards instead. Okay, so this one is one that does benefit you just with your plan right away. Again, like the other ones, like, okay, like the robot one where it's like, okay, it's got power equal artifacts. That's nice. This actually just gives you a giant benefit right away that you're already trying to plan to get to. Again, no maximum hand size. Cool. All right. Awesome. I can actually get a ton of cards. I can hold on to them, and I can have a good control build around this. On top of that, with my control build, I'm already incentivized to have a lot of card draw, and once I get to that max speed, my goodness, does that card draw really come online, and I can do some absolutely crazy things with it, and even some broken things too. Again, like literally, like, okay, I cast Brainstorm. Normally, you're going up, what, 1 card with Brainstorm, technically? Draw 3, you lose 2. Now with it, though, you're going, okay, I draw 6, I lose 2. I'm up 4 because it doubled. My goodness. So, yeah, I think overall, this one is solid. I don't think it's quite to A tier, though. Like, I think it is, like, that same level with, like, Redshift and Seed of Arma. It is very, very solid. It is a B tier commander. It is obviously much, much better once you get to max speed. It's it still gives you a benefit though when it's not max speed though, obviously. So again, the max speed thing kind of holds it back from getting there earlier to be like a higher tier commander, but the actual no maximum hand size is something that is nice that sets yourself up for it. Okay, moving on. Winter Cursed Rider, a 3/2 human warlock with ward, pay 2 life for 2 mana in Dimir. Artifacts you control have ward, pay 2 life. Exhausted for 4 mana until tap. Exile X artifact cards from your graveyard. Each other non-artifact creature gets -X till turn. This is a repeatable board wipe in a way. That being said, you do need ways to potentially blink it to reset it, because again, with that exhaust ability, you can only use that once. But yeah, if you blink it, it comes back as basically a different permanent, essentially, it's considered. So therefore, you can utilize that ability again. You do need to keep your graveyard stock full of, artifact cards essentially in it to actually keep using it. That being said, it is quite nice. It does require some setup to really make work. It doesn't exactly kind of give you like a win condition either. It's kind of more so like, okay, I get out and play. I kind of protect your artifacts-ish with like a little bit of like annoyance, essentially. And also, I can wipe the board. With some work, with some setup, but I can wipe the board. Overall, I think it's like, it's really tough because I feel like there's a lot that are kind of toward like the, B minus C plus, like I'd say these are. And I think Winter is probably right around there as well. I don't think it's quite up to those B tier commanders. So maybe I'm just kind of putting Hashaton on a little mini like pillar right now. And then there's going to be some S tier commanders that get past it, but still. Okay. Zahur Glory's Past, a 3/2 zombie cat warrior for 2 mana in Orzhov. Start your engine, sacrifice the creature, surveil 1, activate only once each turn. If it didn't have that, this would be so much better. Max speed, whenever a non-token creature controlled dies, create a tap 2/2 black zombie creature token. Now again, this is one that it does give you value. It does. Again, sacrificing a creature to surveil 1 is quite nice, especially if you have an aristocrat style strategy, which is probably what you're going to build around this. That being said, once each turn is a major bummer, Wizards, and because of that, yeah, you aren't going to be utilizing this multiple times in a turn, meaning that you can't really take advantage of a lot of the things you like to take advantage with an aristocrat style strategy, which is like mass sacrificing a ton of things on a turn for a brutal amount of value for you and a brutal amount of, pain for your opponents, essentially. That being said, obviously you can build in other sacrifice outlets too. It is a great payoff, again, once you get to that max speed as well. It is not completely useless, again, with that. It's activate only once each turn, so you can actually do that on your opponent's turns as well. So, like, in total, if you're trying to get, like, value out of your creature fodder that you want to sacrifice, cool. All right, you can do 4 per each turn cycle, okay? So there is that, too. You're in some good colors for aristocrats as well. It's a kind of like a pseudo-sacrifice outlet that, again, is free, but, like, limited. And the max speed, like, can really get crazy, though, again. Like, again, basically, when it comes to aristocrats, you want a couple different things, right? You want your creature fodder that you want to sacrifice, you want your free sacrifice outlet, and then you want your payoff. This can give you 1.5 of those, I would say, again, because it's a free sacrifice outlet with a limitation. And then also with the max speed being like, you have to get there. Yeah, it's one that's like, it's probably, again, like that C plus B minus tier again, but like, I think that this one might just make it into the B tier. I think it just might, like the eventual payoff of this might just make it there, and kind of what you're trying to do in the deck. If you're going aristocrats, it's very easy for you to get that life loss on opponents on every single one of those turns. So you're going to get there. You will ensure that you do get that max speed. And once you do that, payoff's going to be huge. So I think I'm going to put that one there. Okay? Like, you do get enough value out of that sacrifice. You're in good colors, too. Moving on. Vanilla. 7/2 Crocodile for 3 mana. Calaxion, Hunger Tyrant. I'm hungry. That's what Calaxion's saying in that picture. Yeah, again. Vanilla. Hungry for vanilla ice cream. Okay? There you go. So there you go. You're in the D tier. No offense, Calaxion. And yes, I know, like a 7/2 for 3 mana. Like, cool. It's a 3-shot KO. It's got 2 health as well. So it's like Yargle. It's very much like Yargle, where it's like, all right, get out there and do your thing. And if you get through, great. You're also in mono black. Like, if this was like the red commander again, like I'm sure they intentionally did not do it in red or in green, where it's like, the like doubling effect essentially is like doubling power, extra power easily. You can get some, I mean, there are some extra power effects obviously in black, like, hatred, obviously. I mean, let's go with any commander when it comes to just taking someone out. That being said, like, if you had double strike effects, yeah, this could really take players out quickly. It's still like a 3 mana, hey, commander, all right, get into play. Hopefully it survives. It's only got 2 health. It can get taken out by anything, essentially, and is not evasive and all that kind of stuff. Okay, next up. Ketramos, the New Dawn. 4/4 God for 3 mana in Orzhov. Menace, lifelink, indestructible. It can't block, it can't attack or block unless there are 7 or more cards in exile. You can get there pretty quickly. Whenever 1 or more cards are put in exile from graveyards, enter the battlefield during your turn, you draw a card, you lose 1 life. That is pretty absurdly powerful. It is an effect that, yeah, I mean, there are certain things that are like, okay, pay 1 mana, exile something from a graveyard, and it's repeatable. Like Wretched, I can't remember the name. It's a zombie. I can't remember the name. Weathered Wretch? Whatever that one is. That one. Some of the comments below help me. It costs black. Anyways, Withered Wretch? That might be it. Okay, anyways. But basically it turns it into, hey, pay 1 mana, draw a card, lose a life. Who cares about the life loss? It does not matter all that much. And of course, you've got plenty of ways to mitigate that. On top of that, of course, using and abusing blink effects can be an easy way to get an absurd amount of value with this. Even a near infinite amount too. Like if you have, say, a Soul Sister in play that can like mitigate your life loss whenever a creature comes into play. And again, you have like an infinite blink loop of like Feldar, Guardian, / like whatever the angel one is, essentially. They just keep doing it again. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, cool, yeah, I draw as many cards as I want. I didn't really lose any life because my Soul Sister. Actually, I have 2 Soul Sisters in play, so I gained life. Cool, actually, awesome, cool. And I drew my entire deck, and yeah, we went from there. There's plenty of ways to win with it too, like with like life gain, you drain someone as well. Or like creature comes into play, like drain someone, or I mean, it's just, hey, like, okay, whenever you're getting life draining and whenever you're drawing draining, like Psychosis Crawler kind of thing. So yeah, it's quite powerful. And again, it is also just hardy. It is hard to take out. It is indestructible. And it can also gain you life too. Menace lifelink, that's quite nice. Yeah, I'd say that this one is probably up there in the S tier. I think that this is just like an absurd card draw engine for you that, again, is hard to deal with, and it's very easy to use and abuse it and get an absurd amount of value out of it. Next up, Mimeoplasm Revered One is back. Mimeoplasm is back. A 0/0 ooze for X in Sultai colors. As it enters, exile up to X creature cards from graveyard. It enters with 3 counters on it for each creature card exile this way. Pay 2 mana. Becomes a copy of target creature card. Exile with it, except it's a 0/0 and has this ability. Now, notably, if it does, like, the unfortunate part about this, at least for you, is it's not like putting counters on them to, like, if whatever, you know, those creatures are that have a slime counter on them, then you can always become copies of them. You lose those copies if this goes away. So if this gets taken care of, or if you say blink it, yeah, it's like you're not memorizing those cards. Like, blinking, it's actually probably the worst thing because it's just going to come back and get taken out because it's going to get no counters on it. But yeah, basically, this is one where, yeah, I mean, you can set yourself up to do some crazy things with it, though. Very, very quickly, very, very easily. Again, if you can entomb some creatures from your deck, again, you've got a lot of great entomb effects. You're in black. You've got a lot of great mill effects as well, like some mass mill effects where you just mill half your library as well. You also have effects where you can tutor creatures into your hand. You got ways to discard them too. You got a lot going on with this one where you can set yourself up in a very effective way, and it doesn't take much to take opponents out. I mean, literally, if you just like, okay, I exile, say, 3 creatures out of my graveyard with this. All right, one's got Infect. Just one of them. Any of them have Infect. Okay, and obviously a creature probably at least 1 power, I would assume. So now this is a 10/10 with Infect. Cool. I mean, or it can be a 10/10 with Infect, because I just need to essentially make it become a copy of that after I have become a copy of something evasive to get through, and then it hits, and then they're taken out. This is also one that can do some like really weird, like awesome things when like it gets through in combat, because again, you have like, oh, okay, it exiled Phage, all right? So now every single time I get through, essentially I can just turn it into Phage, and then it hits the opponent, and then they just lose the game. You can have like these absurd swings where you're getting through with something massive, kind of like Seed of Arma-ish, but also like game-ending things like Phage. So yeah, it is kind of like, it's an interesting one. It's probably, I would say, it's got a lot of potential. It really does. And of course, you're in 3 amazing colors, like maybe considered to be like the 3 most powerful colors in Commander potentially. Potentially, it's probably arguable, but I mean, you've got ramp, you've got card draw, and you've got tutors, and you get the best of all 3 of those. So yeah, you can do some pretty crazy things with it. Again, setting yourself with entomb effects. I'm probably just gonna put this one up in the A tier, I think. So Mimeoplasm Revered One. It might take a little bit of setup, but I think you're gonna get there. I think you're gonna get there with it. There you go. Next up, Pia Nalaar Cheap Mechanic, a 2/4 Human Artificer with 3 mana and Tamer. Whenever 1 or more artifact creatures you control deal combination player, you get 2 energy counters. Beginning of your end step, you may pay 1 or more energy. If you do, create an XX colors vehicle artifact creature token named Nalaar Aetherjet with Flying Crew 2. X amount of energy spent this way. This one, the more and more I think about it, the more and more kind of underwhelmed I am with it. Like, it is 1 or more artifact creatures you control dealing combat damage, so into a player. So yeah, you can get 6 energy each turn. That's a good amount. That is a good amount. I will say that, obviously. The payoff is that you make a, on average, say 6/6. If you can get through on each opponent, it's a 6/6 Aetherjet. Okay, you still have to crew it. All right, you still have to crew it. But still, like, it's not bad. Like, that's not bad. I'm not trying to say it's bad. You can also populate those when you do make them a creature, etc., etc. But yeah, like, and of course you can get more energy if you give double strike as well. There's a lot of moving pieces to it, and the payoff isn't quite as big as some of the other commanders when it comes to it as well. And like, yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It's just like, I think that this is like, again, C+, B-. Maybe I'm just underestimating kind of what you can do. A lot of cool things with energy. I think there's better energy commanders in this that have like better payoffs for that energy. I just think that this one is like, you gotta get a lot going, and then your payoff for this is like, okay, I make a really big Aether Jet. Cool. Yay. All right, and now I'm going to crew it with something next turn. Let me find out what to crew with. Okay. Just wait. I got it. Don't worry about it. It's coming. It's coming through. Okay. And then, like, I mean, because you're kind of dependent on that too, like, and this might be unfair because I'm not downplaying this for other commanders, but like they're tokens still, so like an unsummon effect will just like wipe out your army. So there you go. I think overall, again, it's like that C+, B-. Again, maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe I'm being way too harsh on this, but like I'm gonna go with the C tier commander. I'm sorry. Again, I'm sorry, Pia. Okay. We got Captain Howler Sea Scourge, a 5/4 Shark Pirate with Ward 2, pay 2 life for 4 mana, and is it whenever you discard one or more cards, target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn for each card discarded this way. Whenever that creature deals combination with a player this turn, you draw a card. This is one where it just grew on me more and more and more, especially after I found out that, it can stack. So if you do it in a certain way, essentially, again, it's kind of worded in a way where it's like, when you discard one or more cards, you can give that creature +2/+0 for each card discarded. But that second part is just a one-off. That's why it's worded in this weird way. They're trying to prevent you from like, okay, I have wheel effect. Great, I wheeled. All of a sudden, I get an absurd amount of card draw. No, you don't get that. It's all at once. That being said, if you discard individually, you can stack those even on just one creature. It also doesn't specify what creature, not your creature, it can be any creature, or what player is getting hit. It could be you. An opponent could be swinging at you. I mean, this is not all that advisable because you're going to be hitting yourself for a ton, and you're going to let that creature through, and then you discard a bunch of cards, pump it. I get hit for a lot of damage, but like I can draw a bunch of cards. I guarantee that's going to happen at some point with this commander in someone's playing history where like the situation calls for a desperate maneuver. I will discard these cards individually for my free discard outlet. I will pump your creature that's about to hit me. I will take the damage to the face, and I will draw 5 cards to hopefully draw into something that I need. That definitely will happen. This is one, though, where, like, the drawing can get pretty crazy. Like, again, free discard outlet, plus this, plus something evasive, get through on someone. Also, if you have double strike, you're drawing twice as much. So, basically, again, discarding, drawing both. And the pump effect can be quite great as well. I mean, like, and wheels just in general can work well with it, too. Yes, just not for, like, the massive draw, but, like, for, okay, a massive amount of pump, too. And also, you can pump your opponent's creatures, keep that in mind. So, yeah, just like, someone's going through on someone else. Okay, I pump it a ton. Think about that with someone else having an infect creature, and you're like, okay, your little infect creature's getting through? Okay, I discard 4 cards, I pump it +8/+0, and it takes that player out of the game. Yay! So, yeah, I think overall, pretty solid commander. I'm going to go with a B tier overall. I think some players might think that it's, I think some players might not realize kind of the power potential of it. And maybe, I think it's going to be a bit underrated. I love this, though. And Street Sharks! Love Street Sharks. Next up, Caradora, Heart of Alakria, if I could talk. 4/2, Human Knight for 4 mana in Selesnya. When it enters, you may search life for a mount or vehicle card, reveal, put in your hand, then shuffle. If one or more counters be put on a creature vehicle control, that many +1 are put on it instead. I mean, this is like mount vehicle tribal again. Instead of it being like aggressive in Boros, it is like, go get the best one. Cool. Get counters on them now. Cool. Yes, you can utilize some blink effects, obviously, to go get like the best ones. Again, you still have like a limited card pool, though. You still are playing with a limited card pool. I don't know. Like, again, like a tutor effect on like an ETB, that is just a good thing in general, obviously. And there are some good vehicles out there. There's like some okay mounts out there too as well. But like your card pool is just so small when it's like, okay, like I need to make a really effective deck around this. And I need to just utilize vehicles and mounts in like the best way I possibly can. So, it does some really good things. Again, tutor plus like extra counters. Those are both very good things. But again, your card pool is smaller. Oh, do I put you in? I think you're going to go in the C tier. I'm being very harsh on this episode. I am very sorry, everyone. I'm being very harsh on this episode. I just think that there's like a distinction between S and A and B, though. So I think I need to keep that distinction. I'm sorry. The bottom tier is going to be a bit more full. All right. Far Fortune End Boss. A 4/5 human mercenary for 4 mana in Rakdos. Start your engines. Whenever you attack, Far Fortune deals 1 damage to each opponent. max speed of a source you control will deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls. Deals that much damage plus 1 instead. Yeah, I mean, it's a group slug type commander, essentially. Like, attacking with anything will get that ping. It's only 1 ping, but obviously once you get to that max speed, that's even more. This one, again, unlike the other max speed ones that we've talked about so far, we've talked about a couple earlier that were like at 2, like, cost 2. You can get those down early and obviously get going on getting that speed up. So, like, by the time you're to, like, turn 4 or 5, like, you're there. This is like, okay, unless I drew one of the, or started with my hand, like, one of the max speed cards, one of the start your engine cards in my deck, which is only so many of them that aren't just, I mean, and that's some of, like, the parasitic mechanics, like, where you're just like, okay, I can shove all of them into this deck and hope I get that, but there's a bunch of bad cards I'm using, versus, like, if I use, like, the, say, 4, 5, 6, maybe good cards-ish that have that I want to use in this deck, actually, you're probably not getting one of those cards, and then you're not getting to start your engines until turn 4 when you get this out, or turn 3 or turn 4, whatever you can ramp. Yeah, I mean, there are better group slug-type commanders up there. The max speed payoff is nice. It's not, like, mind-blowing, obviously. It's like, okay, you get an extra damage. Awesome. That's nice. You get 1 extra damage. And just, like, the initial, like, pinging each player for 1 isn't good enough to actually get you out of the C tier. Super harsh. All right. Gonti, Knight Minister. This is a fun commander. 3/4 either run rogue for 4 mana in black. Whenever a player casts a spell they don't own, the player creates a treasure token. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its control looks to the top card of that opponent's library and exiles it face down. They may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Mana of any type can be spent to cast a spell this way. I think it's a very solid commander. It's kind of like Edric-ish. Versus, like, digging down into your own deck, you're digging into your opponent's decks, and actually, they are too. They're incentivized to hit each other, which is amazing. Like, hey, okay, you can attack me, or, just hear me out, okay? Swing at other people, and you can get treasures. Yeah. I mean, and also cards off the top of the library. So, yeah, go for it. So, yeah, basically, I mean, make a bunch of, get low to the ground creatures, swing quickly, get a bunch of treasures, and then steal your opponent's things and get, value off of that too. Yeah, I think this can be a commander that can give you an absurd amount of value throughout the game. Again, both like technical card draw-ish and also ramp, like temporary ramp, but still. So yeah, overall, I think this one's probably an A tier commander. It's pretty solid. It is pretty solid. Next up, Yanling, a Wind Rider, 2/4 human wizard pilot for 4 mana in blue. When this creature enters, create a 3/2 colorless vehicle artifact token with crew 1. Vehicles you control have flying. Whenever one or more creatures you control with flying deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. I mean, okay, here's the thing. Again, you can go like, okay, lots of vehicles. Awesome. Yes, every vehicle I can utilize. Great. I would probably just go a bunch of flyers. Like, I to be honest, again, like, if you want to go vehicles, sure, that's fine. Again, she makes vehicles. Great. Again, like, if you blink, you can make more vehicles. That's great. There are some very good vehicles. Yes, utilize those. But don't just shove every single vehicle into this deck. I don't think that's the most potent build around it. I mean, I'm not saying you can't, but I'm saying, like, we're talking about the most potent builds of these. I'd say the most potent build is, like, okay, go wide with flyers. Get flyers that are solid, like low-to-the-ground ones, like Siren Stormtamer stuff, or, like, get ones that make a bunch of flyers like Talrand and get them into play, essentially. Just do that, get a bunch of card draw, utilize other, like, Coastal Piracy type effects for your more card draw. That's probably what you want to do is, like, more like flying tribal versus, like, all the vehicles, and it'll work. Maybe. But yeah, so I think that's the way to go with it. So I'm say this one overall, again, like, it's a lot of solid flyers out there. There's a lot of solid ways to make a bunch of flyers. We're going to go with a B tier, middle of the road. Again, a lot of card advantage potential with that one. Okay, here we go. Stepping things up just a little bit. Nissa, World Soul Speaker, a 3/3 Elf Druid with landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, you get 2 energy. I guess I should have mentioned 4/4 mana in green. You may pay 8 energy rather than pay the cost for permanent spells you cast. Okay. This is quite spicy. This is quite crazy. It takes a lot for a monocolor commander to, like, get up into the S tier, but, like, this might get up there. This is a commander where, again, like, okay, it is absurdly easy, obviously, to get that landfall trigger and to use and abuse it because you are in, obviously, green. There's also plenty of fetch lands these days, too. So, like, okay, like, an Evolving Wilds gets you 2 triggers. 4 energy. You're halfway there to playing a giant spell for free by just playing in Evolving Wilds. You cast a Harrow, exact same thing. There you go. Have fun. So yeah, you have plenty of ways to get an absurd amount of energy. Obviously, there's other, like, ways to get energy too. There's proliferate effects as well. And obviously, you can just do crazy things where you're like, okay, yeah, I'll just cast this Massive Eldrazi. And yes, I do say cast because you are casting them. So, again, you get cast triggers. Like, those massive Eldrazi cast triggers? Congratulations, you get those because you are paying for the card. You are paying to cast it. You are not cheating it into play. So, you get all these massive things into play, including some that are like Cultivator Colossus. Cool, I just cheat that into play. Oh, and by the way, it's got a trigger where, oh, okay, cool. Like, I get a bunch of lands into play to get me more energy to do that again. And then again. Of course, you've got amazing creature tutors for this color as well. I do think, again, it is monocolor, so it is limited in that fashion, but obviously if there was a color for a landfall commander like this, it is green. So I do think, again, just no offense to Pia, again, Pia Nalaar from earlier, but like, a better use of energy this is. And again, you can make energy even quicker than that one can with like less setup. All you need to do is ramp, which is already beneficial to you in Commander. So again, you're ramping, you're getting a ton of lands into play, you're getting energy, and then you also can utilize those lands to cast things too. So you have like two separate mana pools essentially in a way. You're like, okay, I've got my energy pool, I've got my mana as well. I can utilize both to cast massive spells and just throw haymaker after haymaker after haymaker at my opponents, and they're going to be in trouble and just gone. So yeah, and of course, we got even more great ways to make energy and even more ways to actually utilize energy too from the precons and from other things as well from this set. So yeah, I think overall, yeah, it's just like, you know what? You're going to do some crazy things with this one. I think it's pretty crazy. Okay, next up. Oviya Auto Mech Artisan, a 1/2 Human Artificer for 4 mana, kind of similar-ish to, kind of similar to Nissa-ish. All right, Human Artificer for 4 mana, again, 1/2. Each creature that's attacking one of your opponents has trample, so that's nice. Again, basically, kind of like Gonti has like a little bit of incentive for, hey, get out there and just actually punish your opponents. That being said, this next part isn't about like, you know, hey, incentivize everyone to do things. No, this is like, all right, pay a green mana tap, cheat a creature or vehicle from your hand on the battlefield. If you put an artifact on the battlefield this way, you get 2 counters on it. Okay, so basically this Elvish Piper in the command zone. Now, where does this stack up compared to Nissa? Because they are somewhat similar commanders. Again, Nissa is, all right, hey, I'm not actually cheating them to play myself. I'm giving you the means to actually get that energy, and then when you do with that energy, then you cheat the play. This is like, pay a green mana and do it. In some ways, this seems like better, but in some ways, it's actually worse too. Number one, you actually have to, you know, tap this. So haste does matter, obviously. Like, if you don't have haste with it, and there's not a lot of ways to grant haste in mono green, then you're not going to be utilizing it right away. And obviously, you need the mana to do that too. Also, when it comes to, and I guess if this gets dealt with, like, if Nissa gets dealt with, you're like, okay, well, I still have like 20 energy lying around. Okay, I'll play Nissa next turn for 6. All right, I'll use my energy right away. This you have to like, okay, wait, I get in play. I have to wait another turn to activate it. So if it gets dealt with again, it's only got 2 toughness as well. Like, oh no, I have to do it again. Also, again, you don't get any kind of like cast triggers. So again, like, yes, you can utilize Giant Eldrazi, which is awesome. You're like, okay, yeah, all right, turn 4 probably, right? You turn 2 ramped, you play this on turn 3, turn 4, you're like, all right, here comes Ulamog. Yeah, and your opponents are probably gone. That being said, this compared to Nissa, I think Nissa is just on a separate level because the amount of value can just be a bit more consistent and a bbit crazier, a bit quicker. This one, I do think, obviously you can utilize on tab effects, which are crazy. You can do some combos with it too. It is probably like an A+, S-. I don't know if I can put it up there with Nissa. I don't think I can. So I think overall, I'm probably going to put this one in the A tier. I'm probably going to chicken out. I'm just going to go to the A tier. And maybe you're saying, I completely understand. If you think that Oviya is more powerful than Nissa, that's fine. Absolutely fine. I just think that, again, like the staying power of Nissa is going to be more. Once you build up that energy, it's there. Your opponents can't deal with it at all. So like, you're just like, oh, okay, you dealt with Nissa? Great. I'll replay Nissa next turn with my bazillion lands because I was incentivized to play lands, and then all of a sudden I'm cheating things into play again. This is like, all right, I need a second. Can everyone just like not take my commander out again so I can cheat and play these Eldrazi? Cool. Okay, moving on. Saheeli, Radiant Creator, a 4/4 Human Artificer, 4 mana in-teamer. Whenever you cast an Artificer or Artifact spell, you get an energy. At the end of combat on your turn, you may pay energy. When you do, you create a token's copy of target permanent you control, except it's a 5/5 artifact creature and other types, and has haste. Sacrifice begin next end step. This is a commander that is very cool. And again, another great way to get a lot of energy. Again, like, getting a lot of artifacts in play, that can, again, it has to be cast, though. Keep that in mind. It is very, very, very doable. Again, like, Artifact Storm was one of my first decks I ever built, and maybe I regretted building it afterwards because, like, no one wants to play against Artifact Storm. At least no one that I know. Anyways, yeah, being able to get a bunch of artifacts in play, and Artificers, too, that helps you as well. And many Artificers are already artifacts. Anyways, that is a great way to get a ton of energy. You get that energy, and you can utilize it. Now, unlike Nissa, where it's like, okay, I've got you a great way to get energy, which this has as well. Nissa, though, has amazing giant payoff that is game-ending. This has a very solid payoff, I would say. It's not quite as big as Nissa's, though. Nissa's is like, all right, you need like literally nothing else in play but me, and you need a ton of energy, and then you just do the rest by just cheating things in play from your hand. This is like, okay, you need a really good artifact in play, and or target permanent, I guess, any kind of permanent play. You need a really good permanent in play, and I'm going to copy it. You only get it temporarily, though. There are ways around that, obviously. If you can, like, tutor up and get out, like, a Sundial of the Infinite kind of thing, obviously you can do that, or, like, populating it. That can be great, too. It takes more setup, I would say. This one does take more setup. It's a solid commander. It's not quite there compared to some of the other ones, though. I don't think it's even... I think it's like a B+ commander. It's not quite to the A tier, so I'm going to go with a B tier commander. Moving on. Daretti, Rocketeer, Engineer, a star, 5, Goblin Artificer for 5 mana in red. Power is equal to the greatest mana value of artifacts you control. Whenever it enters or attacks, use target artifact card in your graveyard. You may sacrifice an artifact. If you do, return the chosen card to the battlefield. Okay, so it having power equal to the greatest mana value among artifacts you control is nice. This is a commander that, if you want to be like aggressive with it, it's just unfortunate it's at like 5 mana. It's a solid effect, obviously, but it's like it's at 5 mana. So like, all right, you're pushing things if you like want to like get out there and like, I'm gonna start hitting you, but like it doesn't have evasion either. So yeah, okay. So this one, obviously, I mean, if you get enough power, you can give it double strike, that kind of thing as well, and take players out with like some extra pump effects. You know, 1-shot, 2-shot KO. That being said, like the big thing is obviously that ETB/attack trigger to, I mean, cheat out an artifact out of your graveyard. You sacrifice a tiny artifact, could even be like a clue, a treasure, whatever it is, and cheat out again. Massive artifact, game-ending artifact out of your graveyard. You got to set yourself up to do so. Unfortunately, you're not in black, so you don't have like entomb effects, really. There are certain ways to tutor out artifacts, obviously, in this color, but like mostly you're just quite depending on like digging down in your deck with wheels, digging down with like looting effects, digging down with rummaging effects, and hopefully getting the right artifacts into your graveyard overall, cheating them into play. I think overall this is like, it is probably a, are you like a C+, B-? I think you're a C+, B-, maybe. I don't know, maybe I'm undervaluing the sacrificing an artifact and like cheating a big one into play potentially. Let's go with the B tier. There's a lot of very powerful artifacts out there you can cheat out. Okay, we're going to go with that. Oh, no, I don't know. I'm chickening out. Okay, it's like, give me another category. I'll just put it in between. No? Okay, all right. No, I can't put it in like the B+, C-. Okay, we're gonna or B-, C+. All right, moving on. Loot the Pathfinder. Okay, first of all, I want to admit that I might be biased against loot. So I might just be like, well, it's a D tier because it's loot. Okay, moving on from that. And just not liking loot in general. A 2/4 Beast Noble for 5 mana in Teamer, double strike, vigilance, haste, exhaust. For a green, tap at 3 mana of any one color. For a blue, tap, draw 3 cards. For a red, tap 3 damage to any target. This is a Swiss Army knife commander, which is pretty solid. I hate to say it, it's pretty solid because loot, I don't like you. But yes, it is a commander that can be a good mana engine for you. Again, like 3 mana. I mean, you're technically putting 1 in there, right? But like, you're generating 2 extra, so that's nice. When it comes to drawing 3 cards, that's quite nice as well. Like, I mean, this is just basically, at the very least, again, it has haste. You can do this right away. It's like Arcanus the Omnipotent, but you can activate it right away, but it's only once, kind of, in a way. But then, obviously, if you've got ways to blink it, which you do, you're in blue, then you can kind of get around that to reset it. And obviously, activate again right away. So you're heavily incentivized to, like, draw cards, blink it, draw cards, blink it, draw cards, blink it. Like, that kind of stuff as well. And probably add mana as well. And have untap effects, too. And obviously, like, the Lightning Bolt is quite nice, too. There's a lot with this commander that you can do. It is a solid commander. It's also still 5 mana. Like, it's 5 mana, and if, like, you really want to, like, utilize it right away, obviously you need 6 mana to do so. Like, you might even just, like, wait another turn when you're at 5, because you're just like, okay, I could put this in play and, like, swing with it. But if I don't really want to swing with it, maybe I'll just play something else and then wait till next turn and then play this and then activate, again, if I need to draw 3 cards, my exhaust ability right there to draw 3 cards. This is a commander I'm probably just going to put it, it's probably like a middle-of-the-road commander. I'm going to put it in the B tier. Again, like, my gut just says D tier because it's loot, but it's definitely not a D tier commander, or probably C. It's probably middle-of-the-road commander. It's pretty solid. Again, it's a toolbox commander. It does quite a bit, but loot, I don't like it. Moving on! Sab-Sunen, Luxa Embodied, a 6/6 god for 5 mana in Simic. Reach, trample, indestructible. Can't attack or block unless it has an even number of counters on it. Beginning of your first main phase, put a counter on it. Then if it has an odd number of counters on it, draw 2 cards. Okay, so we have 2 gods, obviously, from this set. Sorry, Hazoret. I mean, we have 2 new gods from this set. I mean, obviously, there's a very big distinction between those 2 that I already talked about, but Sab-Sunen probably falls somewhere in between. It is, again, like a pretty hefty creature. Good. 6/6 reach, trample, indestructible. It's going to be hard to deal with, obviously. You can only attack or block, though, if it has an even number, unless it has to have an even number of counters on it, right? To actually do that. But though you're actually incentivized to have an odd number of counters on it, essentially, in a way. To get that odd number, I guess I should say, on that turn. So, like, there are plenty of ways to counter manipulate, and obviously, if you can keep getting that, like if you have, like, ways to get 2 counters on it instead of 1 or whatever, you have ways to get extra counters on it, your proliferate effects. If you've got ways to actually keep getting those counters on it and ensure that basically on your main phase, you are going to get that counter and it hits odd, great, amazing, awesome, cool. Then you can keep drawing 2 cards every single turn. Now, like, 1 card every other turn is still nice, but, like, yeah, you want to be able to manipulate those counters so you can, like, make this hit even harder, number 1, and then also be able to draw you a bunch of cards. It is a good card draw engine. This is like, oh no, this is like, again, like B+, A-, but I mean, it's not on the level of like Oviya. Like, I don't think it's on the level of quite the other ones either. So I'm going to throw you in the B tier as well. Okay. So actually, there's a nice little, variance between these two. We got God in S, God in B, and sorry, Hazoret, God in D. Okay, moving on. Temmet, Noctamoon's Will. A 4/4 zombie wizard for 5 mana in Esper. Vigilance Menace. Whenever you attack, draw a card, then discard a card. Whenever you draw a card, zombies you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Zombies are one of the most supported tribes out there by far, and with this set and with the precons, they just got a lot more support. They just got a lot more support as well. Some really heavy hitters. Okay. This one is basically, I mean, like, Varina is, they're best friends, number 1. Number 2, like, this is just literally, like, okay, Varina kind of can go wide with zombies and help you out, like, and also, like, dig down into your deck. This is, like, when you dig down into your deck, you win with your zombies. This is just a massive pump effect waiting to happen. This turns any mass draw spell, like at instant speed, into a giant combat trick for you. Your opponents will never know if they're going to get taken out. And again, you have an absurd amount of great zombie cards. So I mean, I think just because of the support for this, the great colors that you're in, again, you're in literally all the zombie colors. You're in the 3 colors that are basically zombies. You got access to so many great things, and essentially, yeah, you get a good amount of zombies out, and then you just cast 1 massive draw spell. Even if you just cast, like, Brainstorm again, single mana, draw 3. You're only getting 3 or 1 card, basically, because you put 2 back on top, but, like, you just drew 3 cards, cool. You just pump your zombies an extra 3, that's 4 on the turn, plus the 5th on the turn from attacking, that's +5/+5 to your team. That is Beastmaster Ascension, basically, for just casting a Brainstorm in combination with the, regular draw plus the draw and attack. So yeah, your team's got to be massive. You're going super wide with zombies, and this is just, oh, okay, yeah, cool, I did that. Oh, wait, I've got another draw spell. I'll draw this too. Cool. All right. Any massive draw spell, you're just going to take your opponents out. And of course, there's like repeatable effects for drawing as well. Like, oh, yeah, on my upkeep, I wheel. Cool. Whatever that one zombie is, it does it. Anyway, it's got Skulk. Can't remember the name. Anyways, that one's just like, okay, cool. I just like a wheel. All right. My zombies get +7/+7 from that. Cool. Good for me. Yeah, this is probably, again, because zombies are so supported, S tier, in my opinion. Again, like, here's the thing, like, would this affect on, say, like, if it was like, I don't know, Starfish? No, Starfish is a bad example because that's not supported at all. What's a tribe that's, like, somewhat supported but not all that supported? Think of one right now. Birds. Maybe birds. I mean, yeah, there's probably enough birds out there. But yeah, okay, like birds. If it was on birds, it wouldn't be an S tier commander, right? It'd be an A tier, maybe. It's a good effect. It's an amazing effect. But, like, the amount of support you have for zombies is just so overwhelming that if you've got a solid ability or a solid effect as a zombie commander, it's hard to stop. And it's yet another commander that, like, you don't even have to play this until you're, like, ready to win, basically. You're like, okay, I play it. All right, I did it. I've got a go-wide army. I played it. All right, I attack. I brainstorm. You'll lose. Goodbye. All right, Tarian World Tyrant, a 9/7 dinosaur ooze for 5 mana. This one's probably a bit harder than the other ones, obviously, because it's like, all right, the 3-shot KO. Kind of like the 7/2, but it's got enough toughness to survive. It does nothing else. It also costs 5, and it does nothing else. So, sorry, but we're going in the D tier. I was trying to put them in order from, like, when I put them out. Okay, there we go. All right, moving on. The Speed Demon, ironically, doesn't have haste. 5/5 Demon, Flying Trample, Flample for 5 mana in black. Start your engines. At the beginning of your end step, you draw X cards, lose X life, for X is your speed. It's kind of like a Phyrexian Arena in the command zone-ish. Again, at the end step, though, which is nice because you're starting to draw those right away. Again, the thing is, if you really want to go heavy into trying to get, again, like, start your engines cards in the deck, you're probably going to have a bad experience because there are some that just aren't very good. So if you try to shove every single one in the deck, it's not going to be all that great. That being said, obviously, getting out like one of those lands early that gives you, start your engines is amazing with this, and you just start going, because once you get to max speed, you are drawing 4 cards on every one of your end steps, and losing 4 life, that's not that big of a deal. But yeah, being able to just, still get value out of this, even though like you're not at max speed, but you still get value, which is huge. There isn't like oh, you have to be at max speed to get anything. No, you're gonna be drawing 1, then eventually 2, then eventually 3, then eventually 4. That's amazing. As a card draw engine for you, Flampling's nice. Like, it's overall just very solid. Like, it is solid, repeatable card draw. Obviously, this can be a kind of, you pump it a little bit, you get 2 extra power, and all of a sudden you are in business to take some out in 3 shots as well. And again, it's Flample, so it can get through. Yeah, just a solid card draw engine. I'm going to put the B tier. Moving on. Atchik, Emerald Radiant, a 3/3 Insect Druid for 6 mana in Golgari. When it enters, create a 1/1 green insect creature token for each artifact or creature card in your graveyard. Another insect you control dies, put a counter on Atchik. Each opponent loses 1 life. It feels like we've gotten a lot of this commander. I think there was like a Reddit post of that actually, where it's like, tell the difference between these commanders. And it's just like the same commander over again. And Wizard just like does the exact same thing with insects that they always do. This one does go about it in slightly a different way, I think, from what I remember the other ones. But like, it also counts artifacts, so that's big. So again, on ETB, not on a cast trigger, not a cast trigger requirement, on ETB, make a ton of insects. You can also use and abuse that with like a free sacrifice outlet and a feign death type effect to be like, okay, I've got 10, creatures / artifacts in my graveyard. It comes into play. I make 10 of these. I target my commander with a feign death type effect. I sacrifice my commander. It dies. Comes back into play. I get that ETB again. On top of that, of course, sacrifice outlets are going to be amazing for this commander too, because yeah, you can sacrifice your insects and get counters on this, which is lovely. But more importantly, drain your opponents. It can be a great finisher for it as well. So this is one that kind of gives you the creature fodder as well as the like payoff too in a way. So it's like, some players are just gonna be like, insect tribal, go big. Yes, but you could also just go aristocrat style tribal. Not tribal insects, but like aristocrat style, like get things in the graveyard, feign death type effect your commander, sacrifice all your things, drain your opponents out, blood arts type effects. I think overall, it's actually pretty solid. Like, I think it's pretty solid. I think it's a B tier commander. Like, it does cost quite a bit, but like the payoff can be immediate when you get into play. And that's kind of like the difference between like certain commanders that might cost a bit much, but like, again, you are immediately getting value out of it. You fill up your graveyard ahead of time. You get a ton of things in your graveyard. There's a lot of ways to get a lot of things in your graveyard. If you, what's that one? Morality Shift, and you switch your, graveyard in your library, and all of a sudden you have an absurd graveyard, and you're like, okay, my commander comes into play, and I make 40 insects and whatever, and I sacrifice them all, and I drain you, and you all lose. Cool, done. So yeah, there can be definitely some massive payoffs. All right. Finally, Samut the Driving Force, a 4/5 Human Warrior Cleric with First Strike, Vigilance, and Haste, keyword soup, for 6 mana in Naya. Start your engines. Other creature control plus X plus 0, X is your speed. Non-creature spells you cast cost X less to cast for X is your speed. Again, the problem with like these start your engines commanders when they get to like a higher amount, like this, the Speed Demon, yes, as well. This 6 is a good amount. Goodness gracious, 6 is a good amount. Giving other creatures plus X plus 0 extra speed, that's nice, but like, okay, eventually plus 4 plus 0 is amazing, obviously. The more important part is that cost reduction, I would say. You're kind of like going in 2 different directions with this, but like what you probably might do with this is like, okay, like a bunch of ways to make a bunch of creature tokens, probably. And those are mostly non-creature. Let's go with non-creature spells to make that a bit easier. And then also like, I can utilize again those like giant X-spell creature spells and like get a giant reduction from this. So yeah, as things go on, you can do that. You probably really want to heavily invest since you are in green. Unlike some of the other commanders I talked about earlier that have like start your engines, you really want to heavily invest in like tutoring for not just basics, but like specific lands. Like a crop rotation could be huge in this because you turn 1 forest, sacrifice it with a crop rotation, and then you immediately go get one of those lands that start your engines. Perfect. That's exactly what you want to do, because then when this commander hits the battlefield, you can hit the ground running, which is massive. And again, you have literally plus 4 plus 0 to your army when it comes down, and also 4 cost reduction for your non-creature spells, which is huge. See, I do think this is one where like I don't want to lean into the parasitic nature of the mechanic. Again, I don't want to just shove in every single kind of, start your engines card in it. I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to, again, put in a lot of tutors that can get me those good ones. And again, the ones that are like lands are the easiest ones to do. So yeah, that's probably what I would do with this one. And I do think you can be pretty consistent with it because there's enough like green tutors when it comes to getting that. So you can get this out and really hit the ground running. I think that's an important thing for it. I think overall, it's probably a middle of the road commander because again, the payoff is huge once you get there. Like even just like reducing by 1 is very nice, obviously. But like once you get to like 2, nice. 3, yeah. 4, oh my goodness, doing some absolutely broken, terribly awesome things. And yeah, swing with your army and winning the game. So yeah, overall, I think I feel pretty good about this. It is a little bit bottom heavy, but again, like we have like all those vanilla creatures and like some, no offense to like Hazoret kind of commanders, but yeah, some that are a bit underwhelming. That being said, yeah, I think I feel pretty good about this. Like the top tier is to me like the top tier, like very supported and very, very, very good. A lot of value to be there. A tier is just a league, just a step above those B tier commanders, and the B I think is very solid. Very solid middle of the road commanders. I think I feel pretty good about this, but yeah, you're the judge of that. So let me know in the comments what you think about all this. And yeah, let me know where I'm wrong, where I'm right. And with that, this episode is come to a close. Make sure you comment below with your thoughts on it. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.